I realized a 2-day class and
Not
get
gonna cut
3
it.
letters behind your name is not enough to make you an expert.
Yeah.
And that was my oops.
Yeah.
All right. So then I went out, I took the class again with a different trainer, not because one was better than the other,
Yeah.
just because I wanted to hear it from someone else.
Yeah.
Right. And then I practiced more. I got
And you asked different questions, I'm sure, the second time around.
I had a very different perspective, right? So I asked different questions. I brought somebody into my organization that had knowledge to help coach me, right? So I got knowledge, right? And then after, so the courses, the certifications give you some level of knowledge, but you need the experience to actually be able to do it, right?
Let me ask you a question. This is my impression. This is something I always say. If you embrace the Agile methodology, one of the things that you have to realize that you're embracing is that it's a more complicated project management methodology than predictive is. Would you agree?
It is, but it shouldn't have to be. And the reason I say that is that the organizational dynamics tend to put far more controls in place than an Agile project really needs, right? Here's why I say that. There's a lot of organizational scarring that tends to happen.
Yeah.
It's like, 6 years ago, somebody did something, so we put a policy in place, right? Can't let that ever happen again, right? Well, that thing couldn't possibly happen in an Agile team because the Agile team is different than a waterfall team. They are different. So trying to put the same traditional governance on top of an Agile team fails miserably. So we tend to spend a lot of time trying to map what you're doing in Agile to this governance that isn't really designed for it. So yes, it becomes more complex. Does that make sense?
I don't know if I would agree with you 100%, because I find that most of the teams that I manage are not that different from one another. I think for me, across the board, one methodology. I'll tell you what my approach to Agile is, and it probably offends some Agilists. I think the true value, and I think there's a lot of value to Agile. I think that the number one value of predictive, I think it's superior when it comes to initiation planning, if it's done right.
If it's done properly.
If it's done right, if it's not exaggerated, and it's done swiftly with the right processing, I think it's superior when it comes to high level planning.
Yes, and then the key there also is bring the right people.
Yeah, but then the key here is high level. And the problem is we agree on the high level. We all nod our heads and shake hands and pat each other in the back and think, this is going to be easy. And then we get to execution. And traditional project management doesn't understand that project management is not initiation and planning, although 80% of it in the PMBOK is.
Yep.
Okay?
It's the other stuff that's
it's actually execution. And
Agreed.
hands down, the superior method for execution in my book is Agile.
Absolutely agree.
Because it deals with the next level of accuracy.
Yeah.
And it engages with the day-to-day stuff, and that's where the magic happens. It doesn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't happen in the plan.
And one of the core concepts in what you're just describing is something that actually came from Lean, and that is you delay your decisions until the last responsible moment. With responsible being very important, right? Yeah. It's like you don't know everything up front. Stop pretending you do.
Yeah.
Right. So just delay your decisions until you have enough knowledge where you can actually make a good decision. And that's how Agile works, right? You're in the delivery space. But even in that case, yes, I agree that Agile, it does a really good job in the execution. The challenges that we face in an Agile team when you're first moving into an organization that doesn't really do Agile that well is the organizational dynamics resist it.
Oh, absolutely.
They resist it completely. The egos, you can imagine you got a stakeholder and you tell the stakeholder, look, we're not going to define everything at the beginning. We're just going to start building stuff. And so, well, when's it going to be done? Well, we think it's going to be done here. No, I need to know exactly. I need to know every single requirement and every single dollar and every single person. It doesn't work.
What you're talking about, you can't do Agile if both ends of the spectrum don't accept it. If the commissioning part, if the sponsor level says, okay, you're going to do Agile, but I'm going to do whatever the heck I want, that's not how it works.
It's not going to work.
Both parties have to be Agile.
Yeah, and it's not that you can't give dates, and it's not that you can't give a good idea of when things are going to be done. It's just,
but it means something different.
It's
They're
different.
estimates.
Yes,
they're loose estimates.
They are.